Hey everyone, this is Kizimir. I got a 2,500 point battle. My Orcs and Goblins versus Warriors of Chaos. Starting off on my opponent's left, he's got a Gorby's Chariot and Mark Nurgle. He has 3 Dragon Ogres with additional hand weapons. Then he has a block of 20 or so of Market's Niche Warriors with a standard of discipline. In that unit, he has in the middle there that giant character that's Sauron. He's a Chaos Lord with an Ogre Blade, Market's Niche, Helm of Many Eyes, Talisman of Preservation, Shield, and Soul Feeder. So that pretty much means that he is not going to die, and he is. I really don't want to get my Black Orc War Boss in a challenge with him because yeah, he's definitely going to kill him, and that character's not going to die. So I got looking to break that through combat res. It's definitely a very killy unit, and also in that unit is his BSB with a Sword of Might and Enchanted Shield. To the right of that, he's got 6 ogres with a Mark and Nurgle and heavy armor and great weapons. So they're pretty much Iron Guts with -1 to hit in close combat. So pretty fierce there. To the right of that, he's got 20 or so Mark and Nurgle Sword and Board Warriors. He's got his level 2 on the left corner there with a Dispel Scroll and a Charmed Shield. For spells, he rolled up Fleshy Abundance for some regen goodness and Miasma of Pestilence. And on the other corner there, he's got an Exalted Champion, Scaled Skin, Sword of Strife, Dragon Helm, and a Mark and Nurgle. So he's adding some combat punch and a lot of extra attacks to that unit. To the right of that is a Gorebeast Chariot, the Mark and Nurgle. Then he's got some Hellstriders here, some movement 10 badasses to run around and cause all sorts of trouble. Starting off on my far left, I got a Goblin Doom Diver. I got 2 units of 5 Goblin Wolf Riders, which I will Vanguard up very shortly. I have a Mangler Squig, and behind that I have a bunker of 20 Night Goblins, and outside that bunker I have a level 1 with Curse of the Bad Moon. Since he rolled the high-end spell, he's going to be a Suicide Caster. And then I have a level 2 with a Dispel Scroll. He rolled up Gift of the Spider Gods and Gork'll Fix It. So poison's always nice to have, especially when you got a couple big blocks. And Gork'll Fix It is a great hex. It helps you win combats and makes you a lot more survivable. Now they're outside the unit because he has no range attack and he has no magic missiles, so there's really no detriment for me being outside my unit. And I don't have to test for animosity for my wizards while I'm not in that bunker, so it's pretty good. I like being able to cast every turn. It's very nice. To the right of that, there is 6 trolls. Then I have 45 orc biggins, and they're rocking the Razor Standard. So in the first round of combat, there's Strength 5 and Armor Piercing, which is great for cracking open the peanut shells that the Chaos Warriors are adorned in. In the far right corner there, I have 2 characters, a Black Orc War Boss with Enchanted Shield, Sword of Striking, Talisman of Preservation, and Crown of Command. So he's pretty survivable kit for a War Boss on foot, and he's there just to make that unit stubborn, which is always nice to be. And there's an Orc Chief BSB with Armored Silver Steel, a great weapon, and a Luck Stone. To the right of that unit, there's 40 Black Orcs, and in front of both those units there is a Mangler Squig to cause some disruption and havoc. Rounding out my forces on my far right, I have an Arachnarok Spider and another Goblin Doom Diver. My opponent gets turn 1 and he shuffles up like so. And then nothing really happens. Then in my turn, my wolves move up a little bit here on the left. One of my wolf units moves right in front of his lord's unit to block them up. My Mangler Squig moves up right behind him. And my unit of my bunker here, a Goblin, Night Goblins, moves up to sell their souls next to the Chaos Warriors here. My other Mangler Squig moves up in the middle to go after the Dragon Ogres there and the Mark and Nurgle Warriors. I wanted to get it away from the Hellstriders because they'll just step on it, and that's a good use for the Hellstriders, and I just didn't want that happening. My Orc Biggins just move up a bit, and my Black Orcs look to close the door on this flank. My Ragnarok Spider, I just move up 7 inches just so I get some bow shots off on the Hellstriders. They're only toughness 3, and they don't have that great of a save. Also, I didn't want to get in range where he could charge me with his Gorebeast Chariot. I don't want to suffer any impact hits. And if he does, he's going to have to go through the woods there. So, I get a little risky in my magic phase. I know what I'm doing. I throw the Curse of the Bad Moon out. I know it's going to go through my Wolf Riders, but I just want to get it out there just to, get this party started. So I send it forward for my level 1. I get off the small version. It's a strength test. I fail both my strength tests with the wolves that it hits. So I lose 2. I pass my panic test, but the silver lining is that now I don't have to test for animosity with that unit, which is pretty awesome. And the Goblin Doom Diver opens up. One of them fails to hit anything. The other one opens up and takes off 2 of the Hellstriders. And then the goblins on the back of the giant spider managed to peel off another one. So there's only 2 left. In turn 2, the Chaos Warriors. He charges the wolves right in front of him because he has to. I elect to flee. He tests to restrain and fails, so he ends up running down the Goblin Wolf Riders against his will. And in doing so, he goes right over the Mangler Squig and pops the Mangler Squig, and it blows up 11 of these Mark of Tisnews Warriors, which is pretty amazing. The unit's been cut in half now. It's a lot easier to deal with, but that Lord in the middle is still scary as hell. So, still not looking forward to getting to that unit. His Dragon Ogres move up behind, and his Ogres move up a little bit as well. His Gorbis Charioteer moves back a little because he's in easy charge range of the Spider, and the Spider doesn't suffer any penalties for going through the forest. So, what's an easy charge for me is a very dangerous one for him, so he moves back a little. His Hellstriders bypass my whole army and goes straight for my Doom Diver, which was expected. And then the magic phase, he just throws on Miasma, a Pestilence onto this unit here, just in case. Orcs and Goblins turn 2. My Mangler Squig goes through both these units and has a pretty paltry showing. He only takes 2 wounds off the Dragon Ogres and 3 wounds off the actual Ogres. So not too great, but he's on the loose back there now. I take my 3-man unit of Wolf Riders and I block up his Gorbis Chariot. So that leaves my level 1 caster to go do whatever he wants. So he's out there partying at the edge of the woods. He doesn't have to worry about the Gorbis Chariot because after they crash into the Goblins, it just has to reform. So, and my other bunker my bunker Goblins there moves up to in front of the Chaos Warriors. Now it's their turn to chaff up that block. And over in my center lines here, my Orc Biggins move up, and my Black Orcs fail a charge in tandem with my Arachnarok Spider. My Arachnarok makes it in. Luckily, it's in the flank, so it won't suffer too many attacks back. I would never put that in the front of a Chaos Warriors unit, but in the side, it's not so bad. However, I was hoping the Black Orcs would be able to support, but I rolled pretty miserable, and they just trolleyed forth a little bit. In the magic phase, I aided to the Spider's efforts with a Gorkle Fix-It on that unit, so it's going to be rerolling at 6s to hit wound and armor saves. And you can see the Curse of the Bad Moon actually went straight through the Dragon Ogres doing some toughness tests, but the Dragon Ogres refused to fail. My Doom Divers open up and manage to strip off the last 2 Hellstriders, and this Doom Diver decided to misfire in the effort and killed itself. My Spider goes and kills 2 of the Warriors of Chaos, and the Warriors do no wounds in return. I end up losing this combat, though, but my General and BSB are in range, so I'm stubborn on a 9, which is key. Yeah, I always try and keep this guy within range of my BSB and my General, because I always find he's on the losing side of combat somehow, although he's great to hold stuff up. Every time he's outside of General and BSB range, he always fails a stubborn 6. But since he's stubborn 9 with my General right now with a reroll, he's pretty stalwart, so he's stuck in there. Chaos Warriors turn 3. He takes his Dragon Ogres, and in a questionable move, he just moves backwards and steps on the Mangler Squig. So the Mangler Squig blows up, and it takes 9 wounds off the Dragon Ogres. These Dragon Ogres are severely crippled, but the Mangler Squig is no longer an issue for him. This Gorbis Chariot dispatches the Goblin Wolf Riders in impact hits alone and just reforms. The Chaos Warriors slap around the Goblins and kill 15 of them. 5 left decide to flee, and his Chaos Warriors, of course that's not worth their time, so they just reform to face the center lines again. He takes his Gorbis Chariot and he plows into the side of my Spider. He manages to do 2 wounds to the Spider this round, but I managed to take off 5 Mark and Nurgle Warriors. I end up losing this combat once again through combat res, but I'm within my General and BSB, so he sticks around. And he reforms his unit to face my Spider. My turn 3, I charge his Ogres with my Orc Biggins, which are obviously, the Ogres are no match for that. So they head for the hills, and I redirect into his Lord's unit. I figure it's depleted enough. I got a whole bunch of meat there. So even if I lose a round or 2, I'm going to eventually grind him down. Especially with that Strength 5 armor piercing the first round of combat, I should be able to do quite a bit of damage. And my Goblin, You can see my level 2 in the middle of this picture here. He's just chilling out in the middle, ready to go hexing, give out lollipops to whoever, wants to come and play with him. My trolls, with not much else going on, they just move to the left flank here to stave off this Gorby's chariot if it decides to come around. And my Black Orcs went in, finally made it into the side of the Mark and Nurgle warriors here. So it's not looking pretty for them. And here's this Curse of the Bad Moon. It randomly scatters 3d6 in a random direction. It lands right on top of this combat. Of course it does. Does 2 wounds to the Mark and Nurgle warriors. Does 2 wounds to the Black Orcs. And it even peels a wound off the Arachnarok. I believe it was a strength test or a toughness test, because I could only fail on a 6, and of course I did. Also, in the magic phase, Gift of the Spider Gods gets off on this Orc unit, so now they're poisoned, which is pretty beastly. And the Exalted Champ has to issue a challenge. I feed in my Black Orc champion there, and he does 3 wounds of overkill to the champion. However, he doesn't touch the Black Orcs otherwise, and I slay 10 of the Mark and Nurgle warriors in this combat. And his banner dies, and the banner was all that was left. And so his BSB and his sorcerer, actually not his BSB, his champion and his sorcerer head for the hills, and his Gorby's chariot flees from combat as well. I choose not to run them down. I just reform like so. If they decide to rally, I'll just charge them again next turn, and if they don't, I'll just charge them off the board with my spider. I'll just charge one and redirect into the other. But either way, they're pretty much heading for the hills. In this combat here, his Chaos Lord has to issue a challenge. I feed him my champion, give me some time to beat down on his unit. He ends up killing my champion. He does 3 wounds of overkill. My Orc General and the BSB slide down. Then I allocate all their attacks on his BSB, and I take him from this world. And I managed to do 7 wounds to the warriors. However, in the backlash, he's only managed to fell 5 of my Orc big guns here, and I win the combat. And he's not steadfast or anything like that, so he breaks from combat, and I run him down, and that's the game right there. I mean, that leaves him with a bunch of fleeing units, 1 Dragon Ogre, and a Gorby's chariot, and my army is pretty much still intact. So some notes from this: a massive victory to the Orcs and Goblins here. The Arachnarok, from my experiences, he's not good going to the front of units, but on a flank, amazing. And at least the next one, he's got to be within the BSB in general range. I can't tell you how many times I've lost combats with him, and Stubborn 6 is just not good. It is not good at all. Yeah, it's great to be stubborn, but 6 is just miserable. I mean, odds are you're going to fail it on average. So, I mean, it's not too reliable. But the Arachnarok, I find, is a great piece. Having 8 wounds is awesome. Guarantees it's going to survive at least 1 cannon shot. Granted, it is pretty expensive, but it is mobile, and it can go over terrain, and it is a threat on the flanks. The problem is you can't leave it outside the general's range. I can't tell you how many times it flees for me, but if I keep it within that bubble, I always have a good time with it. And especially in this army where I have some trolls and the Arachnarok, I got to babysit with leadership. It really condenses your battle line. But in this game, it ended up working out quite well. Which leads to my next one. His general's unit was pretty miserable for me to face up against in pretty much all the matchups I had. But I managed to chaff it up with my Goblin units and install it out, which ensured that I had enough time to create a favorable matchup. And at that point, I knew that his Mark and Nurgle warriors were going to go down. So I knew it was time to jump on it with my big guns. So that ended up working out quite well there. I mean, chaffing up a unit like that is important. It gives you time to deal with the other elements of the army so they're not supporting that one unit. And, man, I hate going against that Lord. Especially since, if he issues a challenge, I have to take it. After my champ dies, I'm going to feed him my BSB. After that dies, it's my stubborn Lord, and once that stubborn Lord goes down, the Orc big gun unit can be in a lot of trouble. Which leads to another event in this match was, in a game with no range units, the Mangler Squig is king, and it just proved it in this game when he really had no answers other than to step on him, and did devastating damage. I mean, it took his Dragon Ogres completely out of the game, and it also took his Lord's unit pretty much out of the game as well. Once he lost those 11 initial warriors to the Mangler Squig, that unit really wasn't nearly as formidable against either one of my hordes. So, massive victory to the Orcs and Goblins. Thank you very much.